Tonight, on the John Ankerberg Show, John's first guest will be Bill Setnar, who for more than 25 years was a zealous Jehovah's Witness. Because of his skills, knowledge, and dedication, he rose in the Brooklyn headquarters of the Watchtower Society until he was given the responsibility to answer all questions submitted by people south of the Mason-Dixon line. He worked with the president of the Jehovah's Witnesses. He looked into doctrinal questions. He found out how the Jehovah's Witnesses' New World Translation of the Bible was really put together and who the unnamed translators were. Tonight, he will explain what evidence made him come to believe that he had been deceived. John's second guest is Joan Setnar, one of the heirs to the S.S. Kresge family. Joan worked in the Brooklyn headquarters where she observed firsthand the president and other leaders of the Jehovah's Witnesses. She will tell why she became disillusioned and what convinced her to believe Jesus is God. Her conviction cost her an inheritance which would have made her a millionaire. John's third guest is Helen Ortega. Helen was raised in a Jehovah's Witness home. She married a Jehovah's Witness. She conducted 13 Bible studies each week and still had time to go door to door telling people about her faith. Helen came to believe that she was one of the special 144,000 chosen elect and publicly announced this to her Kingdom Hall. Then one day she read something in her Bible that changed her whole life. She will be sharing that information and the events that followed in the programs to come. John's fourth and fifth guests are Debbie and Ken Oakley. Debbie grew up in the Ortega home where she was taught the beliefs of the Jehovah's Witnesses. She listened to her mother testify of her conviction that she was one of the 144,000 elect. Debbie and Ken married, and Ken became an elder in the local Jehovah's Witness Kingdom Hall. But then one day, Debbie found out that the Watchtower Society leaders had told her husband that he was to disfellowship her mother from the Jehovah's Witnesses Society. Why and what happened is what Ken and Debbie will tell us, as well as what convinced them that all their lives they had been deceived about Jesus. Now, please welcome your host, John Ankerberg.
Thank you, thank you. Tonight we're going to do a program with folks that know quite a bit about the Jehovah's Witnesses. You can remember back some months ago when we did a debate with the leaders in Kansas City. Our folks on the platform tonight, they have probably over 100 years of experience with their families included of actually living in the Jehovah's Witnesses doctrine. Some of them have been in the highest echelons of the leadership of the Watchtower Society. And I would like to ask you folks to, in beginning this program, exactly who do the Jehovah's Witnesses claim to be?
Jehovah's Witnesses claim to be God's prophet. In the April 1st Watchtower, 1972, of which I have a photo, the question is propounded, who is the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society? And it says, identifying the prophet. They claim to be the prophet of Jehovah God. In other words, what they say comes from God. In fact, the president of Jehovah's Witnesses in a courtroom, when asked who is the editor of the Watchtower magazine, and here we have a photograph of the court transcript, and he says the editor of the Watchtower is Jehovah God.
So in other words, that the Watchtower Society is the direct spokesman or spokes organization, if you want, for the very words of God.
That's right. That's a lot of authority. That's the highest position a person or an organization can have on earth.
How long have they been making that claim?
Here is the photo of the first president of Jehovah's Witnesses, Charles Taze Russell, who made it through the 7th grade. And he says that he is the angel of Laodicea, spoken in Revelation, the 3rd chapter. He is God's channel of communication, God's spokesman, and that he is God's prophet, and that he is the faithful and wise servant spoken of in Matthew, the 24th chapter. Jesus merely asked the question, and he volunteered.
Did this information, when did the Jehovah's Witnesses actually begin?
Jehovah's Witnesses began in 1874 with the announcement that Jesus would be here visibly in 1874. In 1875, Charles Taze Russell was a little upset because Jesus didn't show up when he told him to come.
What did he say?
So for about 2 years, he didn't know what to say, and then he met a man by the name of Barber. And Mr. Barber, who never studied Greek, told Mr. Russell that there is a word in the Bible, parousia. Now, neither of these men knew anything about Greek, and they were explaining Greek to each other. And they came up with a definition that the word parousia means presence. So that Jesus really did come in 1874, you just can't see him. And so that started the excitement. And the new watchtower that was born in 1879 with the headline, Christ's presence is here. It violates Matthew, the last sentence in Matthew, where Jesus says, I will be with you always. But according to the watchtower, Jesus really did come in 1874, invisibly.
Okay, today, are they still making the same claims? I mean, they said they were the spokesperson for God, and they've made some claims that didn't come true. Are they still saying that they are the only ones that have the true religion, the only way to God?
Absolutely, they do.
What's the evidence that they're saying that?
Okay, in the 1965 Watchtower, July 1st, he says, He, that is speaking of God, does not impart his Holy Spirit and an understanding and appreciation of his word apart from his visible organization. So this is the spokespaper of the Watchtower organization, the Watchtower magazine.
The Watchtower magazine is actually a doctrinal organ.
Right.
Is that correct?
What
It's
it
written
says
by
is the
Jehovah
truth.
God.
Now, do the Jehovah's Witnesses actually hold that the Bible is the authority, or is it the Jehovah's Witness magazine with the Bible?
I have a friend, her name's Charlene Reyes, and she was a very zealous Jehovah's Witness. And when she saw things weren't according to the Bible, and some of the things, the circuit servant that travels around asked her if she had the Bible on one hand and the Watchtower